Good evening, traders. This is CloudChartist with your weekly Ichimoku wrap-up for the week ending September 25th. We're looking at the brand new version of Thinkorswim, new update that just came out. And I just did my daily wrap-up, and I actually found that the charts to be pretty responsive, no lagging, even with my broadcasting software, which usually, my broadcasting software is using up 44% of my CPU right now, and the charts, my TOS charts, are still being pretty responsive, no lockups yet. That is a vast improvement. Granted, the markets are not open right now, but still, so we'll see what happens. I also like this new crisp looking cursor, which should make it easier to make videos for you guys so you can see what I'm referring to. Or crosshair, I should say, rather than cursor, since there's still a bug with broadcasting software that doesn't allow a cursor to be seen. So looking at the ES on the weekly time frame, we see that we came up and tested the Tenkan Sen. The Tenkan Sen was at 1970.13. Let's see what the high was. 1969. So we didn't quite test it. We came within a point and a little bit more than a point of testing it, which is pretty good. And then we got rejected wholeheartedly and closed down here around this prior lows around 1915. We had previously held this area of support on these other occasions in the end of August and the first week of September, so not surprising that we held this area. In fact, we've had supported this area prior back in August, and I'm sure other areas before that. So will be interesting to see whether we do continue lower or whether we catch a bounce here. If we do catch a bounce, we're looking at resistance at the 1960 area, 1961, the flat cloud above, and also the Tenkan Sen will probably be at that same level when it reopens. I'm going to guess the Tenkan Sen is going to be around 1960. Or 1961, so that area should definitely resist. If we do break into the cloud, we can look at the Kijun Sen above at 1982.50 as offering resistance. If we do travel lower, we can look at this the 1880s, the 1885 area, 1880 area, and then I don't know what to expect after that. We'll see if we do go lower. I don't have any good support under that besides, this former 1832 area. If we do trade down to, if we really sell off, we can expect potential for the Chikou to come into support at the bottom of the cloud down here at 1827.30. So that would be pretty much as the lowest I would expect it to go, maybe around the same level as this spike low 1830. So we'll see what happens. Let's look at, but bearish, yes, it's still bearish on the weekly time frame as price action is under the cloud. Looking at crude on the weekly, we see we actually managed to hold the Tenkan Sen on the weekly and put in a doji, so more just sideways action on crude. We've been putting in dojis for a while now. This is actually the thinnest doji with the smallest range thus far. So we can look at a range between the Tenkan Sen, which is down at 43.64, and the Kijun Sen at 50.17. Overall, price action is bearish under the cloud on crude. Let's look at the Russell. Russell really led things lower on Friday. So you see that the Russell came into the cloud and tested actually above the Tenkan Sen for a while there, which looks pretty bullish. Then got summarily rejected and closed significantly under the cloud. Did not test this prior low or this prior open area of 1104.70 thereabouts. Let's see, where was that? That was it. 1104.60. But that's potential for a test there, 1104.60. If we do trade lower than that, we can maybe look to this prior spike low, and that would be at 1071.60. I'm noticing that the low high type information is a little bit harder for me to read in this new version of TOS than prior. So if we do trade higher, we will have resistance back up at the cloud at 1152, 11 thereabouts. But the Russell is bearish in the weekly time frame. Let's look at the Dow. Dow got the Tenkin smackdown here at 165.03. Let me zoom in. Didn't quite make it up there, but that's where the Tenkin Sen is. So if we do trade higher, we will have resistance again at the Tenkin wherever it opens up. Chances are it will probably open lower because of this downwards price momentum. We did put in a decent bounce off the lows on the YM though, the Dow. So if we do trade lower, I bet we can expect a test of this area, the 16.085 area, and then the Chicow, this red line over here representing price action time shifted 26 periods into the past, 26 weeks in this case, could test the bottom of the cloud here. So we'll see if that happens, but overall the Dow is bearish in Ichimoku terms. So this is the NASDAQ. Let me zoom in. NASDAQ is holding support nicely at the top of the cloud, so in contradiction to the other weekly charts that we've looked at on the indexes so far, the NASDAQ is still bullish as it's over the cloud. How about that? We did put in this potential reversal candle last week, and we did actually reverse and change trend to the downside with a lower high and a lower low. We bounced off the cloud pretty much perfectly, right? Let's see. I don't know. The low was at 41.85.25. Yeah, that's pretty much the top of the cloud. So moving forward, we'll be over here, so we can look at potential support once again at 41.82.50 area, and then potential resistance wherever the new Tenkin Sen opens up. The Tenkin Sen currently being at 42.68.63. Probably open up a bit lower. I'm going to guess around 42.45 maybe. That's just a guess. If we manage to get above the Tenkin Sen, then we could possibly ride the cloud higher. The Chicow over here, if it does, if we do move higher, it's going to have to get through the candles. And right here where this current doji candle, the spinning top type doji, that's the sort of easy area for the Chicow to get through candles. Easier than this big solid candle here, or the next three candles. So we'll see what happens there with the NASDAQ. Let's look at the metals. I'm looking forward to looking at the metals. Gold on the weekly came and got rejected by the Kijun Sen here at, let's see where the Kijun Sen is, 1152.20, but was supported by the Tenkin Sen at 1124.50. So we have a range trade here between 1124.50 and 1152.20. So until one of those is broken with a close above or below, that's the range that we're trading in. Overall, gold is still bearish under the cloud, and the fact that it's it can't get over the Kijun Sen is also bearish, but it is in a fast time frame uptrend, as it did put in a higher high and a higher low last week. Let's look at silver. I had some fun with silver last week, fading it. That's pretty much how I always have fun with silver lately. I haven't really been convinced to go long because silver has been under the cloud for quite some time now. In fact, let's zoom out a little bit. Silver broke through the cloud back here in 2013 and has been lower, trading underneath the cloud besides this one time when it broke into and closed over the cloud for a week, but otherwise it's been bearish. Not to say it hasn't had some rippers in there. This obviously was a nice move up to the upside from 1931 till 25. That was a nice up move, but summarily rejected, and so we're still underneath everything. But let me zoom in. This is a bullish hammer type candle, even though it's a red candle. It is an inside candle in that it didn't make a higher high, but it did make a higher low. It did close above the Tenkan-sen, so there is a potential for price to move higher and maybe retest the highs of last week's candle, around 1541 thereabouts. There's also this other candle from a few weeks ago, and could even potentially go higher to this horizontal support turned resistance area, which is around 1563. And then we could even move higher and find resistance at the Kijun-sen above, which is at 1584, essentially. If we do sell, we could find support at 1481, and if we get below 1481, that would be a nice short trade, I'm sure, or I'm pretty sure. You never know with silver. All right, let's look at some treasury bonds. Let's look at the big one, the 30-year, the ZB, to start. Well, waiting for data. Looking at ZV, we see that we came in, tested the cloud, put a bounce in off the cloud, came back up, and I actually was very interested in shorting this flat Kijun-sen area, and it worked out pretty well. Did go a little bit higher than I would have liked to have gone over the Kijun-sen, but let me zoom in a little bit more even. But we did close in a very long-legged doji type pattern. We are in an uptrend, as we did put in a higher high and a higher low from last week. So we have resistance here at the Tenkan-sen at 156.21. Then we have resistance again at the Kijun-sen at 157, and we have support next week. Support at the cloud will be at approximately 155.31. So if you look to short, that would be a good area to cover. And then the Tenkan-sen will probably, I'm going to guess that when the new weekly candle opens up, that Tenkan-sen and Kijun-sen might be pretty confluent, probably maybe at the Kijun-sen level, maybe around 157, thereabouts. So that should offer resistance. Overall, the ZB chart is bullish as price action is over the cloud. Let's look at the 10-year. Uh, 10-year not looking as bullish as the 30-year, but let me zoom in a little bit more. We did hold price over the Tenkan-sen, and but we did get rejected from a breakout over the cloud. So price action is neutral overall in Ichimoku terms, but we do have support currently holding at 127.26 at the Tenkan-sen. If we do trade lower, we can look for support at the Kijun-sen below, which is at 127.075. And also moving forward, we will have resistance if we do go higher. At the top of the cloud. In fact, it's got this little peak in it, so that's around 128.08, 128.09. What else should we look at? Let's look at some grains. Let's get corn. Corn on the weekly holding its own, put in a nice bounce off the bottom of the cloud, and then got over the Tenkan-sen. That would have been a really good place to get long when we made it over the weekly Tenkan-sen here, because chances are pretty good that we could possibly come up and test or maybe even fill in this gap area. It's kind of hard to see the colors changed on TOS, so it's real. You can see when I outline it, makes the outline around it. Otherwise, it's kind of vague looking. But so the top of that is at, let's see how they said, 402.25 would be the gap fill area that we could potentially do if we do move higher, or the Kijun-sen, which is at 450. Chikou is stuck into this candle right now. So overall price action is neutral inside the cloud on corn on the weekly. Let's look at soybeans. Interesting. Let me zoom in. Wow, this is a nice, this actually looks pretty decent for a long setup. We do have this gap to fill here, which I don't think that we quite filled yet. That was at 890.25. Let's see, this candle closed at 888.75 and put in a high at 890. So we didn't quite fill that gap. So if we do get a move higher on soybeans, we can look at potential Tenkan-sen rejection at 924.88 or wherever the new Tenkan-sen opens up. Given this up move here, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Tenkan-sen flatten out on the new candle, but I kind of said flatten out like I was from Minnesota, or I'm a Canadian grain farmer. So if we do go higher, look for 924.88 to reject price. If we get above 924.88, then we could really cruise higher up to 949.13. But that would be a big move, and that's not going to happen all in 1 week. Chances are pretty good about that. All right, let's look at wheat. That's my kitten in the background. You might be able to hear. Interesting. Wheat in an uptrend still, made it over the Tenkan-sen, closed above the Tenkan-sen. A lot of congestion in this area for wheat. You can see that's a prior resistance area for wheat, and a prior support area as well. We see that the Chikou, this red line over here, representing price action shifted 26 periods into the past, is coming right into this candle, and then it has the Tenkan-sen above here also at 512.76. So I would say first we need to really get over that 512.75 area, and then if we do get above that area, then we could head higher towards the Kijun-sen above, which is currently at 539.13. Then we do have the cloud, which we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Chances are not that good that it's all going to happen in 1 week, but it could. So if we do trade lower, the 496.50 Tenkan-sen or wherever the new Tenkan-sen opens up could act as support, and if we trade under it, could act as resistance on the way back up. Let's look at oats. Oats looking like a Tenkan smackdown. A Tenkan smackdown this is a nice way to describe what a Tenkan smackdown is. Tenkan smackdown is when price comes up from, there's an existing downtrend, price catches a bounce, usually oversold bounce. This one didn't get oversold, but a bounce nonetheless, and then gets rejected from the Tenkan-sen. Tenkan-sen currently at 234. This candle put in the high at 233.25, and then close, off the highs, but still a pretty bullish candle all in all, with a lot of buying support coming in and just some sideways price action. We are in a downtrend, a new downtrend, because we put in a lower high and a lower low on oats. I feel like I've forgotten something. Let's look at the dollar. Dollar, wow. Zooming in a little bit more. Interesting dollar chart, isn't it? So dollar traded in this range between the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen. I probably mentioned the potential for that last week. The Tenkan-sen being at 95.47 and the Kijun-sen being at 96.395. So until we get a close either above that 96.395 level or below the 95.47 level, I expect further sideways range trade. It's important to note that overall price action is bullish because price action is over the cloud. The only thing that's keeping it from being completely bullish is it's not above the Kijun-sen. The Kijun-sen is bear crossed. We want to see the Tenkan-sen, the blue line, crossed over the Kijun-sen for things to be fully bullish, and also the Chikou, you note, is finding resistance right at the bottom of this candle. So when we open the new weekly candle, price action will be over a candle over where the Chikou is, and the Chikou has resistance next up at 97.04 or a little bit higher, maybe 97.05 at the Tenkan-sen, 97.07 actually at the Tenkan-sen. So we could, trade higher to that area pretty easily as well. If we trade lower, we do see that we have cloud support at 94.87 thereabouts. Let's look at the Nikkei. And I will mention to you guys that last week I noticed that DAX was really leading everything, especially with all that Volkswagen nonsense going on over there. Germany has been really setting the pace for the US markets. So if you're trading ES or treasury bonds or crude oil, you definitely want to keep an eye on the DAX futures. And I don't know how to do that. I don't know that you can do that on Thinkorswim. So I like to look at the DAX, both the DAX index and the DAX futures at investing.com. So you might want to check out their charts. It's free. You can get a membership if you want, but you don't have to. So that's what I use to chart the DAX. And I do tend to post the DAX chart throughout the day, so if you're lazy and you just want to wait for a link, you can look on my timeline. I posted it multiple times last week. I didn't post that much other stuff, so you can probably scroll down and find the DAX link in my timeline on Twitter. So Nikkei put in a long-legged doji type candle, traded deeply into the cloud but closed above the cloud. That's pretty bullish, really. It is in a downtrend as we put in a lower high and a lower low, but following the cloud, we could make a decent move higher. Like, that's what it sort of looks like. The potential for happening is there. We have the next candle is going to open up right here on the same flat area that the last candle found support at. So if we do find support here again, we could trade higher all the way up to 19053, the Tenkan-sen above, and then the Kijun-sen is just a little bit above that. Then once we get above that, like 19,070 area, we could go, back to potentially to retest the highs. So that's kind of, oftentimes the Nikkei leads the U.S. markets, but I really found it helpful to pay more attention to the DAX last week. More stuff going on in Europe than in Asia at the moment, but could flip-flop back to the Nikkei any day. Well, let's just look at the euro for fun. So the euro is still bearish and under the cloud, and let me zoom in a little bit closer. You can ignore my trend lines if you don't mind. So euro came up and tried to trade into the cloud last week and got rejected, closed this long-legged doji type spinning top type candle and potential trend change candle, and indeed we did get a trend change lower as the last week's candle put in a lower high and a lower low. We got rejected exactly at the cloud. Fantastic, right? We traded through the Tenkan-sen, came down to the Kijun-sen and put in a perfect bounce at the Kijun-sen. The euro has been trading very true to the Ichimoku charts, so if you're an FX trader, I would definitely recommend using Ichimoku charts. They've been really good for FX. a lot of, I would say more FX traders use Ichimoku than US futures traders. So, and this is a FX futures chart we're looking at too, but it works really well on spot forex as well. So we're looking at resistance potentially at the same area that we found resistance last week at this, let's see where the high was, 113.47, and then potential support at 111.24. Unless we can make it into the cloud and change the bias of the chart to neutral, it's a range trade between the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen. And I'm going to wrap it up there. Hopefully I didn't forget anything too important. And thank you for watching. I do run a chat room. If you're interested in learning how to trade Ichimoku or trading futures live, we trade ES, CL, silver, bonds, treasury bonds in the room actively. So you can check out my website at CloudChartist.com and just check me out. Do follow me on Twitter at CloudChartist. And good luck this week. Be careful and have a good rest of the weekend. Thanks for watching.